Hi guys, welcome back to DeFi Daily. Today we will try to go behind the scene of what happened with Luna and USD. I have identified 9 different stories that are like Shady stories. We will try to analyze each of them, understanding what is the reality. Obviously, always remember that what we will try to do is analyzing. We can't know for sure what happened. Unfortunately, the truth 100% is something that is not achievable. We will try just to better understand what happened in order to collect more information, in order to grow our awareness on what happened for real, or at least that's what we will try to. And guys, remember, if you enjoy this content, remember to leave a big thumbs up and drop a comment. Just a so small effort for you, but really means a lot to me and also to all the team that is working hardly to produce the content. Okay guys, let's start immediately. So I have said that I want to analyze 9 different stories. And the first story that I want to start with is Basis Cash. I don't know if you know it, but it was something that also for me come completely new in the moment when USD simply dumped. And it is a project that was led by Dokwon, a previous project that it was quite close to USD. Obviously, it was missing all the part about the big ecosystem that has been built on Terra. But the reality is that also that was an algorithmic stablecoin that at a certain point crashed. And speculators are saying, guys, that's the proof that in somehow Dokwon is the responsible one because he knew about the risk, but he haven't done anything in order to protect the investors. To be honest, personally, I would prefer to knew about this previous project. It wasn't something that was a secret because probably digging around, it was an information that it was possible to retrieve. Unfortunately, this kind of due diligence is something that is not so easy. And that's another demonstration on how it could be really difficult to understand the fundamentals of the project because it's not so easy to retrieve all the information. And unfortunately, that's true that Basis Cash is another project that was led, or at least this is what it's looking like from CoinDesk and from many other news that failed into the past. The second story that I want to share with you is about quite a peculiar movement by the headquarters. As you probably know, Terra Labs, that is the company behind the Terra ecosystem, was based in Korea. The point is that just a couple of days before the crash, it was moving from Korea to Singapore. And many have speculated that this movement was something like they knew about a possible crash. The reality is that it is more probable, it is more likely that they were moving from Korea to Singapore due to some kind of tax problem with the Korean government. As you can see from this tweet here, Korea National Tax Service states Terra needs to pay 35 million in taxes. The reality is that these numbers are changing according to the source. Someone is saying 35, someone else is saying 75. So the numbers are not coherent. But what it looks like is that, yes, the Terra Lab had some kind of problem with the Korea government, and that's the reason why they have been moving their company from Korea to Singapore. Nothing more has been said, and we don't have any kind of official statement by Dokwon, for example, or the Terraform Lab about all the happenings about this movement of the headquarters from Korea to Singapore, not even about the reality of what is going on about this lawsuit with the Korean state. Going on, another big topic is the high cost that has been highlighted by FatMan. FatMan is one of the most active users among this kind of scandal. He has been publishing every day some interesting news, so if you're interested, I will leave also his Twitter link into the description below so you can check it by yourself. And what he is saying is that it is quite curious that the Terraform Lab was spending so much money for employees, and it looks like that they were paying something like 180 million per month to employees. And that's something that is quite a lot if you are thinking about it, because unofficial voices were saying that the number of people that were working with Terraform Labs were about 70, 100. So that's quite a lot, spending so much for just a so small number of people that were working with Terraform Labs. This is something that we should dig more inside the numbers. Unfortunately, I don't have the balance sheet. I don't have all the voices of cost that has been paid by the Terraform Labs. So until we haven't checked them, we can't say anything. We can just say that it's quite curious to see that Dokwon is saying that 1.8 million of Luna are going for employees each month. Going on and going to the next point, it was quite, I don't say wrong, but it's quite incoherent to see VCs selling. In this case, we have, for example, Terra Capital that was selling their holdings on UST just during the crash and just during the first signals of the crash. Nothing bad for a VC to use some kind of risk management and to deleverage their position about USD. That's something that is absolutely coherent and legit. What I liked less is that the fact while VCs were deleveraging, Dokwon was saying this: getting close, stay strong, lunatics. Close to announcing a recovery plan for USD, hang tight. Deploying more capital, steady legs. So that's something that it's not so correct, because from one side we are having VCs that are selling, on the other side we have Dokwon that is pushing people to hold their position. This is something that it's not good for the smaller investors that were following Dokwon and were believing into the project. The reality is that, unfortunately, what we should learn from this situation is that we don't have to fall in love with projects. We don't have just to read the statements of Dokwon or any other leader of the project. We have just to stay strict to our plan. We need to have an exit strategy, and we have to have it ready before investing. So in the moment when any kind of emergency is happening, we are ready to leave no matter what, because exactly as Terra Capital, but also many other investors has done on the other side, we should also remember that someone else was trying to save the pack. So according to VC, different strategies has been applied. But the reality is that it is perfectly legit to leverage your position. What we should learn from this situation is that yes, we need to take profit during the process, and on the other side, we need this kind of exit strategy in order to save our funds, or at least saving whatever we can save. Going on, communication. Communication was quite lacking during all the crisis. From one side, also Dokwon hasn't said anything. The Terraform Labs hasn't said anything. The Luna Foundation Guard has been quite slow to share their different strategies and how they were acting during the crisis. And what is even worse is that during all the expansion phase, all the different players from Binance, from all the institutional players that were playing inside this game, were communicating, saying that UST was a really safe investment, and nobody was talking enoughly about the different risks. That's something that unfortunately we were blinded, because the project was doing quite well, it was growing, and it seems that it was supported by many VCs and had enough strength to be resilient to any kind of situation. Unfortunately, this statement was wrong, and all the community, from the biggest player, because you can think about Binance. Binance had an exposure about $1.6 billion of dollar on Luna. That's something that is pretty a lot. And the reason was because also these big players were believing that Luna, that USD could succeed. And unfortunately, all of us has been blinded by the success that happened in the last couple of months, and we undervaluated the risk. This is something that we should all of us learn from our mistakes, and I hope on the other side also a better communication from the project. It's something that should be needed, more specifically during the crisis, because in that moment is when people are needing at most the support of the people that are behind the project. Because if we are able to understand what's going on behind the scene, this is something that will help for sure us as investors to take better decisions. Going on the other side, there is also some speculation about the Luna Foundation Guard team, and more specifically, this is about José Macedo, and about the fact that it looks like he was scamming, playing poker into the past. In my opinion, this fact doesn't have any real relevance. In any case, what is significant in this moment is that, as you can see, every kind of shady story, any kind of shade is coming out, even if it's not so important. And that's also a big signal of how the feeling about this project is really bad and dark. And this is something that is making even more complicated to understand what is the reality and who are the people that were managing this kind of situation. This kind of news was something that it wasn't absolutely necessary at this point. At the end of the story, in any case, he admitted this, he apologized, and he said that he paid back them. Going on to the next story, I want to stop for a second talking about Luna Foundation Guard funds. I can't say if they have been using it into the best way. It is something that I don't have the tools to understand it, and most of all, we are missing many information about how they manage the overall situation. What I can say, as it also has been enlightened by this user on the Agora Terra .money, he's saying that it doesn't look that that amount of liquidity has come to the market. So this is something that we are still trying to wonder how this around $2 billion has been used in order to save the pack, because just from the analysis of the chart, this is something that is not coming out. So this kind of transparency by the Luna Foundation Guard, so just telling us what happened, this is something that can at least help us to better understand what happened. And on the other side, it can also help us to increase the trust that we can have on their regards. Going on to the last point, I want to just highlight this about the vote, because many people were speculating that if Dokwon was voting to the last proposal, what the Luna Foundation Guard was doing. And according to these statements, looks like, as you can see from this one, it looks like that Luna Foundation Guard no longer has staked token. I believe that's coming from Dokwon. And the same story applies to Terraform Labs, that a representative has informed that Terraform Lab categorically does not participate into the governance votes. Just to share this point that I think that is quite important to understand who is voting and who has right now the power to decide the future of the Terra blockchain. Obviously, all the stories that we have gone through are just hypotheses, because the reality is that we can't be sure what happened for real, and we will never know all the behind the scene that are happening. With this video, I just try to give you an overview about what happened, just to give you more information, because the more information we have, at least that's what I'm thinking, the better is the understanding, the awareness that we can have around this topic, and that's something that I believe that can be helpful. Guys, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any other insight. Let me know if you know some other stories. Just write it in the comment section below. Remember, if you enjoy this content, leave a big thumbs up and drop a comment, and I will see you tomorrow in another video. Bye, guys.